November 5, 1979, was an otherwise quiet Monday night in the rural wooded area of Punta Gorda, Florida. However, all normalcy shattered when at approximately 1:40 a.m., an on-duty deputy, checking out what he said was simply a suspicious vehicle, radioed Charlotte County Sheriff's Dispatch and reported that he had coincidentally happened upon a grisly homicide. The Charlotte County Sheriff's Office Road Patrol deputy named John Greer reported that the body had been found inside a locally known shop, part of a chain called the Farm Store, located off of Highway 17 and North Washington Loop Road, a road which meanders through creeks and wooded areas and is an area frequented by locals and tourists alike, exploring the nearby waters of Charlotte Harbor. Deputy Greer reported that the killer had escaped with a paltry sum of $734 from the store's till. As officers responded to the scene, they soon learned the victim was a 25-year-old woman named Adele Easterly, an assistant manager of the farm store. She had been shot twice with a 12-gauge shotgun, once in the back and once in the head. No bullet casings were found. Numerous people in and around Adele's life were interviewed, and while some were considered potential suspects, no evidence nor information was developed that would establish any solid leads. Initially, some suspected that the deputy, John Greer, might have been involved because he had a sordid reputation and lived in the area. The store was located just 5 miles from his Port Charlotte home. He also had a reputation amongst deputies for being, quote, creepy. While the sheriff's office investigators and commanders believed he could be responsible for Adele's death, they lacked substantial evidence to back up their suspicions. Suspicions were already aroused due to an earlier death associated with Greer. Just over 70 days before the murdered store clerk was happened upon by the deputy, he had called in another dead body. This time, it had been the body of his wife. Just 2 months prior, on August 27, 1979, Greer had called the sheriff's office and reported that his wife, Jackie Greer, had shot herself in their home in Port Charlotte. Greer was off duty at the time and told responding deputies that he was sleeping and heard a pop and saw smoke coming from a closet before finding Jackie Greer dead inside with what he said was smoke coming from a hole in her chest. An investigation was completed, and although investigators suspected something was not right about the incident, there was no evidence to prove the case was anything other than suicide. 320 days later, another female acquaintance of Greer was found dead, this time while sitting in her Ford Mustang in a wooded area of Port Charlotte. Her husband had reported her missing on September 20th, 1980, and her body was found on September 29th. The cause of death was undetermined, but it was suspected that she had overdosed on pills, as empty pill bottles were found in the car. Her body was far too decomposed to determine the cause of death. However, no signs of trauma were noted. The unnamed woman left behind a suicide note that investigators said appeared to be legitimate. Shockingly, the victim's husband told the sheriff's department that Deputy John Greer had been following his wife around town and was coming to their house while on duty. The deceased's husband said in no uncertain terms that Greer had been attempting to have sexual relations with his wife. It is thought that it was this third dead body connected to Greer that triggered an internal investigation of the deputy. Greer was suspended on October 3, 1980 at 10 a.m. and resigned on that same day while officially under investigation for undisclosed activities. Unsurprisingly, while Greer's search for power was temporarily deterred, the private nature of the internal and air investigation of him did not preclude him from, quote-unquote, serving the public, and he went on to work in several other law enforcement agencies, including police and sheriff's departments, most near the west coast of Florida. He was also a pilot and held a variety of pilot and aircraft-related positions in and around Kingsport, Tennessee. In the ensuing decades, years passed, and no one was ever arrested in the shooting of Jackie Greer, in the murder of Adele Easterly, or in the suicide of the unnamed woman of Greer's affection, who was found dead in her car. In 1986, 6 years after Greer resigned, a friend of the slain store clerk Adele provided critical information to investigators. She told investigators she had not come forward previously because, quote, she was afraid of a deputy. The unnamed outcry friend told police that the 25-year-old had been dating a Charlotte County deputy who would visit her at the farm store. He would come during the night shift, and she said he would bring his gun too, as he put it, quote, protect her. This friend recalls Adele told her she became aware the deputy she was involved with was married, which was new to the young woman who had been dating him, assuming he was previously single. This friend believed that at the time Adele was killed, she was trying to break up with the deputy. The friend went on to say that Adele was, quote, definitely afraid of him. Detectives later learned that Greer carried a double-barreled 12-gauge shotgun in his patrol car, the same gauge bullet that killed Adele. In those days, it was common for deputies to carry personal shotguns or rifles in their patrol vehicles. This type of gun does not eject bullet casings, similar to the gun used at the scene, as no casings were found. The anonymous friend relating what she had heard from Adele also said that she knew the true story surrounding Greer's wife's death in August of 1979. She said that what had really happened was that the deputy had told his wife that he wanted a divorce, and in response, Jackie Greer took his service revolver and tried to shoot herself. According to Adele's friend, Greer then told Adele that he had fought his wife for the gun, causing it to go off and killing her. This was contrary to the story he had told deputies regarding hearing a pop while sleeping and finding his wife in the closet dead, the wound still emanating smoke from the gunshot. With this new information in hand, in November of 1986, detectives requested that a crime scene investigator with blood spatter training examine Greer's wife's death scene. An investigator from the Broward County Sheriff's Office examined the scene, but could not determine if her death was suicide or homicide. However, he did determine that the death could not have occurred in the manner Greer described. As Greer told responding deputies that he was sleeping and heard a pop, he then claimed that he jumped out of bed and frantically looked for his wife before coming upon a closed closet door with smoke coming out. He opened the door and said that he found his wife was in the closet and had been shot. Chemicals to detect blood were used, and no blood spatter pattern was found on the inside of the door. However, there was evidence of blood in the door jamb, which would prove the closet door was open at the time of the shooting. When the friend of Adele was asked by the detective about John Greer specifically, Adele's friend said she believed that was the name of the deputy Adele was seeing. The farm store was in a policing zone that Greer worked very often during the midnight shift. Police felt it was worth noting in their report that no other deputy lost a wife to suicide or homicide in that time period. In 2009, cold case detectives featured the Adele Easterly case on the Charlotte County Sheriff's Unsolved Cases website, and in doing so, they purposefully released more information than normal, with the hope that someone with knowledge of this crime might respond. The posting of this update paid off because the detectives received information that a former sheriff's office explorer had knowledge about John Greer. According to their website, the goal of the Sheriff's Explorers program is to, quote, educate and involve the community's youth in police operations and to educate them in law enforcement functions. Cold case detectives arranged an interview with this former child explorer and learned she had been sexually assaulted numerous times by Greer while he was a deputy, and that he had specifically threatened to kill her during one assault. She vividly recalls that Greer told her to, quote, ask them dead, Dad, like Adele Easterly, what happened when they say no to me. The explorer was working in the dispatch center the night Adele Easterly was found dead in the farm store. She said that she observed Greer drive into the sheriff's office complex and continue to the east side of the building before entering. The east side was the sheriff's entrance, where the locker room was located. The deputy entrance was typically on the west side. Greer entered the east side door, and the explorer saw him with what appeared to be a long gun in his hand, and she recalls he looked disheveled. She also noticed that one of his gloves was off and that he had something on his bare hand that could have been blood. Greer was known to wear black gloves while on duty. When Greer saw her, he either motioned or told her to get back into dispatch. She recalls that after a few minutes, he drove from the east side of the building to the west and then came back inside. She said that he looked like he had just showered. Cold case detectives started searching for any other victims or witnesses that could add information to support a criminal charge. And while detectives interviewed several past employees and explorers in the sheriff's office, and additional information obtained supported some of the statements of the victim and the explorer, no charges were filed, and Greer would not be formally interviewed for over a decade. In 2019, yet another woman came forward, this time revealing that she had been sexually assaulted by John Greer when she was just a teenager, working as a dispatcher for the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office back in 1979. But despite the gravity of her report, little progress followed. Detectives worked to build a solid case, trying to gather enough probable cause to make an arrest. According to the sheriff's office, once they had exhausted all avenues of investigation, they attempted to conduct an official interview with Greer. They had tracked his whereabouts for years, but only when he was admitted to an extended care facility in Kingsport, Tennessee, did they finally act. In April 2023, cold case detectives made the trip to confront the now bedridden former deputy. Greer, 77 years old and in rapidly declining health, could barely speak. He could no longer feed himself. Yet investigators reported that he appeared to understand their questions, even if his answers were short and faint. Then came the moment that stunned everyone. When asked if he had killed Adele Easterly and his wife Jackie Greer, John Greer, gasping for breath, confessed, not just to one murder, but to both. He admitted that he had shot and killed Adele, the young woman he had once been romantically involved with. And then he said the words that confirmed years of quiet suspicion. He had also shot his wife Jackie at their Port Charlotte home in 1979. Still, detectives could not determine if Jackie's death had been intentional or accidental, as Greer had long claimed. Adele was killed just 2 months later, raising questions about whether Jackie's death was truly what Greer claimed it was, or part of a disturbing pattern of violence. Due to his critical condition, detectives concluded that Greer would never be healthy enough to stand trial. His extradition to Florida would be medically difficult, and the case, built mostly on hearsay and a single eyewitness, would be a legal gamble. Ultimately, John Greer was never arrested. He died nearly a year later, on March 2, 2024, at the age of 77, an age his victims never had the chance to reach. Critics of the investigation believe Greer should have been pushed harder, especially after his confession. They point to the suspicious circumstances surrounding the 1980 death of another woman Greer had been pursuing, a case still shrouded in mystery. And they question why no one acted sooner when Greer had already shown himself to be, as one family member said, a shady kind of character. Finally, on December 31, 2024, the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office announced that the Adele Easterly murder case was officially closed. Detective spokesperson Gandy explained that Greer's confession had not been publicly released sooner because they were working with other agencies across the South, investigating the possibility that Greer may have been involved in other unsolved crimes. Adele's surviving family members remained divided. Her niece, Jessica Kilborn, who was just 5 when Adele was murdered, expressed gratitude toward the cold case detectives, but also a deep, lingering frustration. "The ball was dropped after my aunt was killed," she said. "The sheriff's office knew Mr. Greer was shady, and they did nothing. Jessica described the outcome as bittersweet. "We have a name," she said, "but it will never be closure, not when my aunt is still gone. My dad lost his only sibling. My grandparents died never knowing the truth." Detective Gandy echoed those feelings. "It's frustrating we didn't get to arrest him. We didn't get to see him stand trial. But it's good we could finally give the family some answers. I'm sorry we couldn't have done more." Though Adele's case is now officially closed, the investigation into John Greer's past is far from over. The Charlotte County Cold Case Unit is still asking anyone who may have information about Greer's possible involvement in other violent crimes, whether in Florida or elsewhere, to come forward. If you or someone you know may have been affected by former Deputy Greer, or if you have any information, you can contact the Charlotte County Cold Case Unit at 941-57-55361 or after hours at 941-639-2101. If you found this case compelling and want to see more stories like it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications.